Imagine a church that is full of people who are worshipping God together, content with the Sunday services and happy with things as they are. Then along comes a young curate, on fire with the gospel and wanting to spread the good news to people who wouldn't dream of stepping foot in a church. In 1882, this was the dilemma which Wilson Carlyle faced. In response, he established Church Army. His vision was to train ordinary Christian men and women to share the gospel with those most in need. He began by holding open-air gatherings to share faith and encourage faith to turn into action. As Church Army grew, Carlyle focused the charity's work on the slums of Westminster, one of the darkest spots in London. Since then, we have continued to follow God's call to share the good news of Jesus and to usher in God's kingdom. We are Church Army. In 1883, Church Army was officially recognised by the Church of England. The training of commissioned evangelists began, and a social action took the form of men's and women's homes, social work in the slums, prison work, and horse-drawn mission caravans. At the turn of the century, the need to support those facing unemployment became a strong focus, through residential care in homes and marquees. This era also saw pioneer tent missions, beach missions, the Church Army printing press, and the making of films for evangelism. Church Army was active during both the First and Second World War, where Church Army was working both at home and overseas, providing much needed recreation huts for the armed forces, operating ambulances, mobile canteens, and kitchen cars. We also opened training centres for men who had been left disabled by the fighting. In the new age that dawned, many evangelists were employed to work with children and young people, the future generation. Youth centres were built and relationships developed with scouting and guiding associations. We continued providing hostels for homeless men and women and care homes for the elderly. Today, we continue to build on the foundations laid by Wilson Carlyle through our vision for everyone everywhere to encounter God's love and be empowered to transform their communities through faith shared in words and action. We began with one man and have grown into the Church Army we are today, a society of evangelists authorised by the Anglican Church. We're a mission community, people with a passion for evangelism, holding on to the same heart we've always had for the marginalised, vulnerable, those on the edges of society, and seeing God's love and hope break into people's lives.
Like everyone, Church Army is facing lots of challenges due to the coronavirus pandemic. But we're remaining hope-filled and proactive as we partner with God to serve the most vulnerable. Church Army works in some of the most deprived areas across the UK and Ireland, sharing God's love. We work in very broad contexts, but some of the people we're working with include the lonely, young people at risk of knife crime, those struggling financially, and the homeless. In our frontline work, focused in what we call centres of mission, things have been going well, but are looking very different from normal. Like lots of organisations, we've moved existing activities online wherever possible. We've seen new people engage with these online activities, people who'd have never come to things before, and that's really exciting. In Selby, near York, Amy is creating a weekly online kids club video for the children her team would normally see every single week. These videos are fun ways for these families to continue to hear Bible stories and testimonies from lots of different people, but also get involved with things like quizzes and crafts. Andy in Gloucester is being really creative in how he's encouraging people in his local area to pray. Many of the people he's in touch with wouldn't call themselves Christians.
One of the things we found through some of our old board games was a roulette wheel. And instead of the old TV programme called The Wheel of Fortune, we turned this into the Wheel of Prayer. So what we did was that we assigned a street name or an organisation or group of people to a number on the wheel, and then we would spin the wheel. So we'd spin the ball and we'd spin the wheel, and whatever number the ball landed on, we would then pray for that street name or that organisation.
There are lots of people, particularly the elderly or those in rural areas that we work with, who aren't online. So our evangelists are keeping in touch by phone, newsletters, and fun things like activity packs. Val shares how she's doing this in Haverfordwest, Pembrokeshire.
One of our vital pieces of work that we've been doing since the lockdown began is that I weekly deliver about 80 packs of work to 40 or so families on the estate that don't have access to the internet. And it's quite vital because it keeps us in touch with some of our most disadvantaged families, and it's also meant that we see them regularly and we've been able to help them in very practical ways.
One of the biggest challenges we've seen over the last couple of months is the significant increase in poverty. Church Army staff are doing all they can to provide food parcels, many more than we'd usually give out. We're also ensuring that food banks are able to stay open and providing other practical support, like, for example, sourcing towels and curtains for one family who needed them. Kerry explains how he's doing this in Dundee.
We're delivering food across the city to people who are in need, whether through lack of funds or whether because they're self-isolating. We pack up boxes of food, 3 days worth of groceries, and deliver it to the door. We're doing many thousands of meals every month.
This is just a little insight into what Church Army staff have been up to during the coronavirus pandemic. There's so many other things I would love to mention. The poorest will be hit the hardest by this pandemic, so the work of organisations like Church Army in deprived communities is really needed right now. We would love you to pray for Church Army's frontline staff as they support these communities during the pandemic and beyond.
My name is Josh Smith. I'm a pioneer evangelist with the Church Army and the Diocese of St Asaph, and this is the Tin Can, the youth centre that we run as part of our centre of mission. 2 times a week we have our drop-in where 30 to 40 young people just descend on the place. We've got a pool table, we've got PlayStations, a tuck shop over there, a kitchen where we fill them with toast. But basically just let them hang around, chill with their mates and get to know them ourselves as well. It was slow going at first. We kind of opened and had probably about 10 young people coming in and out for a few weeks, but then we started advertising it with the school. And since then it's really been full every time. First and foremost, somewhere for them to come and to be safe, to be off the street, out of trouble. We found that 98% probably of the young people we've spoken to have no faith background at all. They weren't raised in Christian homes. So they've got no knowledge of God or the Bible. So just being able to introduce that through conversations, through short epilogues we've done here, and then through other things like the camps we've taken them on and Youth Alpha that we ran. I believe that you're starting to see young people discover that there's more to life than just what maybe they're told by relatives. Actually, we're starting to see young people engage with that on a really encouraging scale. There's one young lad who's been coming for probably 2.5 years now. We've took him on camp twice. He's made the commitment and prayed with me, having a really good conversation where he felt like God was speaking to him, saying that he feels like God loves him and he wants to live for God, which is so encouraging, just that he knows that A, there's a God out there that cares for him, but now he believes that that God's got a plan for him. It's just amazing to see God doing amazing things to those young people. I want to see this place become a place of worship for young people. I want to see a young Christian community established here. And I think we're seeing the real beginnings of that now. We've probably got 5 young people that have made a commitment in the last 2 years to follow Christ, and others that are really engaging and asking questions. So it's a really exciting time, actually, and the team and myself are really excited for that. The biggest thing I can say is if you're passionate about going out and seeing people who wouldn't engage with God, engage with him, about taking God into the places where the church can't reach, and about sharing your faith, it's the job for you. And it's not going to be easy. I wouldn't say I'm naturally one of these extrovert evangelists who can go out and 20 minutes of a sermon and loads of people come to faith. What I've seen is God used my character, God used my gifts, things that I didn't even know I had. And it's all been really, really natural for me. So I would say that if you feel a call, go for it, because God can use you no matter what you think your limitations are. God will use you as long as you've got the passion and the heart for seeing others saved.
Xplore is a year of training in mission and evangelism for 18s to 30s provided by Church Army. People take part in Xplore alongside whatever else they're doing in their life, whether that is studying or working, training, interning, volunteering or home life. We seek to equip them to reach their current context with the good news of Jesus. Once they're with us, explorers receive teaching in the form of a weekly podcast, including topics such as prayer, finding your mission field, blessing your neighbour, the Holy Spirit, how to make disciples, and loads more. They're placed into groups with other explorers, and these are either face-to-face, if there are enough explorers in one town or city, or they are online via Skype and they meet weekly. These groups very quickly become community where they encourage each other, they have accountability, and they journey together in evangelism adventures. We have explorers dotted all around the UK, Ireland, and mainland Europe. We gather together 3 times a year for residential weekends, and these include worship, teaching, prayer, and evangelism together. There is no cost to do Xplore, and this is thanks to the generosity of our Church Army family.
Well, who am I? I'm Frank, I'm 20 years old, and I'm from a city called Mainz that is in West Germany. I'm studying theology there at the university. The biggest thing I've learned in Xplore is that evangelism is not like a project you do once on a weekend with a lot of people. Evangelism can also be things you do in your day-to-day life, and that this part of evangelism is actually far more important, that you just go out and just be a testimony for everyone you meet. It's hard to have proper friends while Skyping, but I came here for an Xplore weekend, and I realized that actually we are quite close. We are good friends because we know what's going on in our lives. We build a really close community, and that's actually quite enjoyable.
So I went to Belfast as part of one of the Xplore weekends a few weeks ago. It'd been snowing recently, the snow had been really bad, so we went up one of the estates where you can only get access if you drive to the shops and things. So we went and we blessed the people there with some bread and some milk, and we were knocking on doors. It was quite scary at first, it's not something that I'm used to. And one of the families we knocked on, we thought it was going to be an old lady. It turned out to be this young family, and I just started chatting to her and asked how she was, and then at the end of the conversation I just said, "Oh, is there anything we could pray for you about?" And that was when she opened the door and she let me and my fellow explorers into her house. She then explained that she had a 2-week-old baby, and when we went into the living room we saw Dad holding this gorgeous baby. And we were able to pray with her and chat to them. The mum was really open about all the things that they'd been through, and yeah, it was just a real special moment being able to pray for that family, and it's something we wouldn't have done if we hadn't have gone and knocked on doors with bread. So I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is the importance of community. Through Xplore I've met people who I've instantly clicked with. A lot of the people at Xplore I've only met a couple of times, and yet I feel instantly at home with them, like their family. I instantly feel like I can be my complete self, I can laugh as loud as I want, and they still love me the same. And that's because we're all rooted in Jesus, and that we all have this love for Jesus, and that's what builds our community, and that's something that we do it together. We don't go alone, we go with one another and with Jesus.
For more information you can check out our website, Xplore, young adults living missionally in community doing evangelism.
you.